Hello, and thank you all for coming. I'm Virginia Rivera, Senior Director of Planned Giving, and I welcome you on behalf of UC Santa Cruz. Today, we are celebrating you and your participation in the university's first comprehensive campaign. You will be hearing more about the campaign later. I'd like to acknowledge Associate Vice Chancellor for Philanthropy, Jeff Schilling, he's at this table, and colleagues Bronwyn Wagman, Director of Development for Physical and Biological Sciences, and Ann Gibb, Director of Leadership Giving. All are members of the 21st Century Club. Did I miss any of my colleagues? Yes, and Carrie Napoles, she is a Director of Development for the Humanities. I'd also like to introduce two new colleagues. Deandra Hicks leads our Leadership Annual Giving team. Deandra, can you stand for a minute? And she directs the Chancellor's Associates program. And if you're interested in learning more about how unrestricted support helps students reach their full potential or how to join the Chancellor's Associates, I know she'd be happy to speak with you. I'm also pleased to introduce a new member of my team, estate planning attorney and alumnus Tyler Hines, class of 2007, Crown College, and a literature major. Yeah. Yay. Tyler is the new Director of Trusts, Estates, and Stewardship. And finally, I'd like to recognize Planned Giving Coordinator Cindy Miller and thank her for not only organizing today's luncheon, but also for the support she provides to our team on a daily basis. So Cindy's right here. Just a few more quick comments. We will be treated to remarks from the Chancellor and one of our newest 21st Century Club members, Professor Emeritus of MCD Biology, that's Molecular, Cell, and Developmental Biology, Barry Bowman. And we will also be treated to a talk from Professor of Environmental Studies and Director of the CASFIS program, Daniel Press. He will give a short talk about the local and global impact of 50 years of organic farming research and the extended reach of 1,500 CASFIS apprentices. The CASFIS Farm and Garden Apprenticeship in Ecological Horticulture offers hands-on training in agroecology, organic farming, and gardening. It will be preceded by a video of the program, and we will conclude today's event with a group photo. So please note that we will be videotaping today's presentations and will forward the links to you to share with your friends and family members. And we're also sharing the links with the people who couldn't join us today, because there are about 300 members of this group that not all of them can join us for this event. So for now, please enjoy your lunch. We will start the program in about 25 minutes. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Chancellor George Blumenthal to make some remarks. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, George Blumenthal is UC Santa Cruz's 10th Chancellor. He joined the campus in 1972 as a faculty member in astronomy and astrophysics and was named Chancellor on September 19th, 2007, after serving as acting chancellor for 14 months. Chancellor Blumenthal?
Thanks. Thank you, Virginia, and hello, and thank you all for coming and joining with us today. You know, I've been in higher education for about a half a century now. And I never get tired of this time of year. Move-in days are a thrilling time for campus, and I just came here today from move-in of transfer students, and there's just a lot of excitement and joy at the opportunities that these students feel that they're getting. It's really an exciting time. And so here we are again at the beginning of a new chapter, a new academic year, and This is going to be, for many of our students, a seminal experience in their lives. So we're very pleased that they've chosen to come to UC Santa Cruz, and I trust that they will be just amazingly successful here, just as students have in the past. So rather than giving you a long talk, I thought I'd mention a few things of note on campus, and then we'll have time for questions and answers afterwards. So this week, we are about to announce our choice of 3 proposed designs for our Student Housing West project. We've been focused for a long time on increasing housing on campus. Housing, as you may know, is extremely tight. And we've taken advantage, in fact, we're the first campus to take advantage of a new Office of the President initiative on student housing. Our goal is to create 3,000 beds in a project that will be located near the west side of campus. And some of these beds will be used to restore lounges on the campus that we've already converted into bedrooms. So we're going to convert them back to lounges. But more than 2,200 of these beds will be new beds for the campus. And so that's quite exciting. And I'm hoping that will do a lot for the housing crisis on campus, as well as for the housing crisis within the city of Santa Cruz. So I think that's really exciting. We expect the first 900 beds to be online in 2020. So let me turn to some recent rankings that came out. Rankings are always tricky. And I can show you good rankings and bad rankings. I can show you rankings I trust and don't trust. So I'm going to mention a few, but I'll admit to you up front, I don't pick the bad ones, right? But still, I think we have some good ones that we can be proud of. The Times Higher Education once again ranked UC Santa Cruz as number 3 in the world for research impact. Research impact measures the number of times publications by our faculty are cited by scholars around the world. And we're number 3 in the world. That's something we can be really proud of. And it shows this to be the dynamic campus doing path-breaking work that is just so exciting. Last week, the U.S. News and World Report's ranking came out, and we were ranked number 33 in the country among public universities. And the Sierra magazine once again named us as one of the top 25 green campuses in the country. And we continue, and this translates into student interest. We're seeing record applications. In many categories, we're even going up in applications when the rest of the UC system is actually either stagnant or going down. Last fall, we had 52,000 applications for freshman admissions, plus another 10,000 applications for transfer admissions to the university. So this year, we'll have the largest transfer class ever of 1,260 students, and our international diversity continues to increase as well. We have more than 350 new frosh coming from countries outside the United States. So our reputation is really helping us to be a place that's more attractive to students as well. I might add that last year was a really good year in terms of honors for the campus. I'll just mention a couple. One of our faculty, Sandy Faber, won the Gruber Award, which is the highest award possible in the field of cosmology and extragalactic astronomy. And another of our faculty, Harry Noller, won the Breakthrough Award last year. That's a $3 million prize. Now, I mentioned the $3 million not because I'm focused on money, which I am a lot of the time, but because it's a measure of how eminent that award is. That award is sometimes called the Nobel Prize of Silicon Valley. And Harry was very much a deserving recipient of that award. And there are many other awards as well. I would promise you, I would bore you to death if I just went through all of the ones, but I just picked out a couple of the biggies. The other thing I'm really pleased about is the campaign. And, that's something I think of great importance. In a way, I'm wearing something very special today. I'm wearing a big smile because our campaign concluded last June successfully. And we raised a total of $335 million, so more than we'd even set a goal for. So I kind of think of it as my $335 million smile. We also finished 6 months earlier than we had planned. So that campaign was a great success, and I'm so pleased. Last year at this luncheon, we had a chance to talk about our aspirations as we entered the final year of the campaign. And now we're done, and we finished strong. The official total was $335,639,817. So it really was a great success, and that's enough to put a smile on any chancellor's face. And part of that is that I'd like to really give a heartfelt thank you to all of you who contributed to that. That 9-digit number is the direct result of the generosity of many of you who are sitting here today. In a word, giving is really powerful. It enables students to accept career-changing or career-inspiring internships. It helps faculty members advance life-saving research. It means a program director can empower student success. Or, just look around you. This wonderful barn, this barn is the result of our fundraising campaign. And up the hill away, Rachel Carson College and its endowment now is providing research and educational opportunities in perpetuity. And that's also the result of this campaign. And then in a very short time, we will be holding the grand opening of the campus quarry and the completion of the quarry restoration project. That's going to be fantastic because it will allow us to restore something that has been an important part of the campus history, something that has been dormant for 10 years. So that's going to be extremely exciting. And meanwhile, we established a whole bunch of new endowed chairs. We've almost doubled the number of endowed chairs on the campus as a result of this campaign, and that's something else that will make a real difference for us going forward. So all of these were the results of what has proven to be a very transformative campaign. And I'm really proud of how we got here, and it was ultimately a team effort. We had a total of 63,000 individual donors to the campaign. I'm kind of in awe of that number, 63,000. That's a huge number. Just to put it into perspective, the total number of graduates of UC Santa Cruz is a little bit north of 100,000. We revamped our approach to philanthropy, recognizing that people give in many different ways. For example, bequest intentions, which those of you here have committed to or are considering, are also an important part of our philanthropy portfolio. Planned gifts ranged from $1,000 to $5 million in the campaign, and they represented 17% of the total amount that we raised in the campaign. All told, we saw $57 million in planned gifts from about 250 donors, a mix of alums, current and former faculty, staff, parents, and just friends of the university. So your bequests and planned gifts supported just about everything we do. It runs a broad range from scholarships to research projects to faculty support to programs to buildings to facilities. They've made a huge difference on the campus and continue to do so. Support from an emeritus faculty member and his research associate wife for the Molecular Cell and Developmental Biology Department made an enormous difference as well. They included scholarships for military veterans and for children of current or retired staff, funded from the UC Retirees Association. So in general, what you've done, what everyone has done, has made a tremendous difference on the campus. It has played an important role for our student body, and let me remind you that our student body has a large percentage, something like 44% of our student body are first-generation students, whose family do not have someone going to college before them in an earlier generation. Our students, this makes a tremendous difference to our students' success, and it makes a tremendous difference to the research enterprise on campus as well. That statistic I mentioned at the beginning, being number 3 in the world on research impact, that wasn't an accident. A lot of that is due to the generosity of our donors and many of you in this audience. So I do want to say thank you for all that you've done. And at this point, why don't I just open it up for questions, because there may be questions about other topics that you'd like to ask.
With a college or creating a new college, or what's their tie to the campus?
So the Student Housing West project is not going to be in a college. It will be a standalone housing project. But the main people living in that project, in fact, not virtually, everyone living in that project will either be a graduate student or a student with a family student, a student with a family, or it will be an upper division student, a junior or a senior. So for undergraduates, I see this as an opportunity for students who otherwise would be forced to live off campus, to give them an on-campus place to live. And I think that there's a lot of demand among our upper division students for housing on the campus. So I think that we'll be able to do that. Those students will still be members of a college, but they won't be physically in a college. Come on, don't be shy. Yeah.
What's the percentage of students that live on campus?
That live on campus? I think roughly 53% of our student body lives on, 53% of our student body currently lives on campus. And we are number 2. We are the second, that is the second highest percentage of students living on campus of any public university in California. And the only campus that we are below in that percentage is the California Maritime Academy. Other questions? Don't be shy. I'm sorry, where's the California Academy? Is that what? Maritime Academy? I have no idea. Vallejo, okay. Yeah, okay, East Bay. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And virtually everything I've done is really done by other people, by a whole team of people, or by a university. I can get to take credit for it all, but the reality, this is a big effort by many, many people, and I'm so proud of what we've all been able to accomplish together. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw a very depressing article in today's New York Times.
Probably not.
Harvard University received only 8.1% income on its $7 billion.
So I don't know if you heard that, but he pointed out the troubling article in the New York Times that said that Harvard University received only 8% on their, how big an endowment? $37.3 billion endowment. And my response to that is last year, the University of California, I believe, earned 14% on the UC endowment. So yet another way we're beating out Harvard. Yes?
I know that you have been working on assuring that we got $1 for our when we pay in, if we're getting much less than that amongst all the UC campuses. How are we doing on that?
Okay. So she's referring to a couple of long-term initiatives that I had started right when I became chancellor that took many, many years to complete. One of them is getting back the tuition money that our students were paying to the campus. And again, that took about 4 or 5 years of arguing, but now all tuition money is returned to the campus of origin. So if our students pay $1, we get it back here for their education. And when I started, just to be clear, we were getting back about 67 cents on the dollar. So that was a major thing. Now that's been going on now for a few years. The other major initiative, which took, again, a long time to get agreement on within the UC system, had to do with how state money is distributed among the campuses. The way state money had been distributed was just based upon the previous year's distribution. So if we got 5% more money from the state, every campus got 5% more money. If we got 10% less money, every campus got 10% less money. That had been going on literally for decades. And so if you ask the question, how did those numbers get set in the first place, no living person knew the answer to that question. And if you actually looked at things like dollars per student, there was huge disparity among the campuses. And guess what? We were at the low end of that. So that became an effort which became known as rebenching. And last year was the final year of rebenching, so that we've now had 5 years of rebenching, which was an effort to make sure that we were distributing money in proportion to counts of students. So rebenching is now essentially complete. And so I can't argue anymore that we're not getting our fair share. So if I'm going to complain, I have to find other things to complain about. Thank you. But I think that was really important for the campus. Other question? Yeah.
You've done a remarkable job recruiting professors, recruiting the best people from around the country. But I think what I see is one of the reasons that people are reticent to come here is because of the housing and housing costs. And I know at times that you've been able to do an allowance. Is there any move to be able to give a higher allowance to them as an incentive to come here?
So the issue of housing allowances and ways that we can work with faculty to recruit faculty is one of our biggest issues, as I think you are well aware. I think the likely good news coming forward is that as we are working through our Student Housing West project, the next major project, which we're planning to fund in the same way as that project, will be to do Ranch View Terrace 2. So that is the second phase of our Ranch View Terrace housing. So we haven't put that out to bid yet. We're not quite there yet. But we now have a funding mechanism that was not previously available. And our ability to do that was a key consequence of the president's initiative. So now we're able to do some things that we couldn't have actually afforded doing in the past. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the biggest thing that we can do. In terms of housing allowances, there's some issues there in terms of Regent's policy. I don't exactly, as the chancellor, have complete freedom to make those decisions because we do have to conform to regental policy, and that has been becoming more restrictive over time. Nancy.
So even in the long term, is there any plan for how to get traffic up and down to UCSC High Street?
Yeah, the question was, what about traffic? Is there do we have plans to do something that would alleviate traffic? And so first of all, let me just say that the traffic situation is actually better than you might imagine. No, seriously, because if you do counts of traffic to the campus, and we do count several times a year, those numbers are the same as they were in about 2001 or so, because traffic, even though we have grown our student population dramatically, traffic hasn't increased. That doesn't mean it's good, it just means it hasn't grown in proportion. I think the long-term solution to traffic is, at least for the intermediate term solution, is going to be bigger buses. There are these rapid transit buses which we have now tested last year in cooperation with the Santa Cruz Metro. And so that we tested 2 new buses that will carry many more people up to campus. And we discovered that we could use those on Santa Cruz streets. And the fact that we could use them means that there is the potential there to have a much larger public transportation component of transportation to campus. If you look at the number of single occupancy cars driving to campus, that number has actually gone down dramatically over the last few years. Maybe it's because parking has gotten more expensive. I mean, whatever the reason is, but that simply is true. And I think what you probably also know is that we have not built parking lots for the last decade. So that's another constraint on how much additional traffic could come. My hope is that we will find better ways to get more people to take alternative forms of transportation to campus, because ultimately that's the only way we'll solve this traffic problem.
So is there any thought of building Eastern Access? It was up for discussion in the 70s.
Eastern Access, yes. Oh, good.
I voted against it, and today I live on it.
So Eastern Access was, originally planned as as a third entrance to the campus on the east side of campus through Pogonip. There was an agreement that was reached some time ago between, I think when Marcy Greenwood was chancellor, that we wouldn't pursue it for a certain number of years. Those years have probably ended now. But the reality is, I think Eastern Access is not a likely solution in our future for several reasons. One is it would be just amazingly difficult to build it. Number two, if you look at the housing patterns of where our students and our employees live, it actually wouldn't be that beneficial. Our students and our staff have all moved into housing in areas that's easier to get to campus. And so the development that might have been stimulated by an Eastern Access to the campus never occurred. And so I don't think right now that that's something that's likely to happen anytime soon. Having said that, I have to say, I wouldn't mind somewhere there being a third entrance to the campus, because having only two entrances to the campus is very limiting for a number of reasons. And so, I don't know, maybe we should have a parachute drop. I'm not sure what, but I wouldn't preclude the possibility of a third entrance somewhere, but I don't think it's going to be the Eastern Access. Other questions? Well, with that, let me thank you again, and thank you for your great questions and for being so attentive. This has been a wonderful event.
Thank you, Chancellor Blumenthal. It is now a pleasure to introduce to you one of our newest members of the 21st Century Club, Emeritus Professor of Molecular Cell and Developmental Biology, Barry Bowman. For nearly 40 years, Emma Jean, also known as Rusty, and Barry Bowman built our understanding of a part of the cell called the vacuole. Now the retired researcher and emeritus professor are putting their department in their will. Barry and Rusty may look familiar to you. They are both involved in a variety of campus groups and activities, including the Emeriti Faculty Association, the UCSC Women's Club, and the Osher Lifelong Learners Friends Group. Barry?
Okay, so yes, 38 years for Rusty and I here in Santa Cruz, and it's been a wonderful place. We just feel really lucky to have ended up here. And the campus has been very supportive of us during that time. And very much we kind of owe what we have. We owe the development of our careers to the opportunity that was available here at UC Santa Cruz. We have no children, so that raises the question of what happens to the money, all right? And, well, Rusty and I have worked together in research for all of this time. In fact, we think we may have the world's record for marriage living within 30 feet of each other hourly for over 40 years. And as Virginia mentioned, we're basically cell biologists. We were working on a part of the cell really focused on basic science of how structures are formed and what's the function of these small compartments within cells. And over the past 50 years, UCSC has developed into a major research university, as George was saying. And research universities are rare and wonderful institutions. there are probably only about 200 of them in the whole world, really major research universities. Places where the society has devoted a substantial amount of money to hiring people and telling them, find something new, it's up to you. And it has been a remarkable success in civilization. Much of what we know about the world today comes from research universities. Santa Cruz is such a wonderful place that we've been able to hire many of the best young scientists in my area from all around the world. All around the world, the best people want to come here. There's really only one dark side to it, and that is the grim part of university life, especially for scientists, is that you have to get the grants to fund the research. It's the one part of my job that I really did not like. It's a challenge, and it's a feast and famine system. So, for example, in our area of basic science, most of the money comes from the National Institutes of Health. If you get that grant, suddenly you've got $200,000, $300,000 a year. If you miss that score by 1 point, you have 0. All right. And that's a hard thing. UCSC doesn't have very much money, really, to support research directly. The state of California does not support research much directly. It almost all comes from the federal government. And so if a grant is lost and you have some young person who came in, they're really bright, they got the job here, they got that first grant, but then getting the second one or the third one can just be a career-ending experience if they don't do it. So after all those years in the university, we thought this might be a good way to use the money. What we want to do is really to set up an endowment, and we started that already, which would allow people who have lost the grants to continue their research, to be able to continue to employ that long-time research assistant you've had for years, to allow that graduate student to continue to be paid, to allow that postdoc to continue to work on that project. And I think this, in terms of bang for your buck, is a great way to put your money. You can get a very bright, very motivated person to work for about $10 an hour trying to find a cure for cancer or something. It doesn't get any better than that. And so that's what Rusty and I are doing. It's a kind of a give back for the wonderful things we've gotten from the university. And I very much appreciate the opportunity to be with a group of like-minded people. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. I would now like to introduce Professor Daniel Press. He became the Executive Director of the Center for Agroecology and Sustainable Food Systems, CASFIS, in July 2012. A member of UCSC's Environmental Studies Department since 1992, he served as department chair for 7 years and held the Olga T. Griswold Endowed Chair in Environmental Studies. Dr. Press received his BS in Fermentation Science at UC Davis, then went on to earn a master's in public policy and a PhD in political science from the Claremont Graduate University. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Picking up, good. So we're going to start with a little video about the farm and garden. Now here I confess to a veteran professor's deep insecurity here. Will the video be better than the live thing? I don't know. So, because I'll follow up with some remarks afterwards. So I hope you like it, but not too much.
Nobody in 1965 thought that there would be a 33-acre organic farm here hosting thousands of people every year.
Because we've been here for so long and the land really has been so successful in demonstrating some of the principles and practices, we've been able to bring in so many different groups and organizations that when I first got here as staff, I was blown away by how many people visit the farm each and every day.
We have an opportunity to educate individuals from around the country and around the world on organic and sustainable farming and gardening practices, knowing that they take that back to where they come from.
The garden is the original site. That's the place that Alan Chadwick, along with students and Paul Lee and others, selected, and they picked a challenging site.
Probably the biogeographic center in North America for poison oak, so it was really a difficult slope. But the genius of the place was its due south-facing orientation, its warmer microclimate. And Chadwick, being the dramatist, wanted to make a statement. You can do this with skilled labor and good practices.
Chadwick took this as a matter of his free-spirited personality. He went out and bought his own spade downtown, and he picked out the slope right here and started to dig. And everybody went, who the hell is that? And who gave him permission? Where'd he get the spade? So anyhow, he just went at it.
Dean McHenry himself was a Lompoc farm boy, and he had a respect for and understood the agricultural lifestyle.
Once in a while, the chancellor would get some criticism about Alan. My favorite one is when they criticized Alan for planting by the moon. How are you handling a cult on your own campus? The chancellor said, my father was a farmer and he planted by the moon. That shut them up.
He was a riveting personality. He had one foot in the theater, drama, and one foot in horticulture, world-class horticulturalist. And he fused the two together and taught in a way that was very oral, demonstrative.
I think one of the finest things he represented was a sacramental relation to nature. Alan, in effect, worshiped nature, and he transmitted that to the students just in the moment when they needed that.
If you're here during the crepuscular hours, the dawn and dusk hours, when the birds are out chirping, and you were to walk through just before the main slope when there's citrus on both sides and they're in bloom, you get this overwhelming fragrance of citrus walking through the garden. That's something that I'll keep with me for my whole life.
So that was the original site, but in the early 1970s, the students wanted to take their show onto a larger space. They wanted to go from gardening to farming. Chancellor McHenry said, well, you can have 17 acres down here on the meadow. And they got a couple of draft horses to do the plowing, and they made a go of it.
I was attracted to this work because it's simultaneously I get to use my hands, use my body, I get to be outside and be very physical, but I also get to be very analytical. I get to use my mind as well, and I think that's what really draws so many people to farming.
The students just get so much out of their experience here. You can see the joy in their face when they're leaving here, covered in soil, going off to their next class.
What's unique about UCSC in the case of the farm and garden is that honoring and balancing of two modalities, the apprentice style and the scholastic model. We have a phrase, we say, we teach the teachers, we train the trainers.
We work with undergraduates and we have kind of a student farm. We also work with folks that have graduated from university in our apprenticeship program and are maybe beginning farmers and gardeners. We also do university high-level academic research. We also work with the community. We also partner with organizations to work with K-8 and high school age youth that are interested in engaging with sustainable agriculture.
It's that steady stream of people coming through here that I find inspirational, that and the fruit.
The farm and garden really was at the nexus, the genesis of starting this movement in this country.
In the first 50 years, we came a long way from beautiful, eccentric oddity up by Merrill College to a world-class model of sustainable agriculture.
We're celebrating 50 years this year. But in many ways, I feel like right now, the farm has just as much potential as it did when it first got going. And the reason is that the conversation has moved so far, and we want to keep moving it further.
I can't think of not farming now. My purpose is with the ground and with everything that comes out of it. I want to share the joy of what farming and gardening is.
All right, hope you like that. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of background from where we came from. I'd like to bring you up to date a little bit. This is an aerial view of the farm. Do we have some? Must be something else. Oh, okay. Yes, indeed, we did celebrate our 50th anniversary here, right here at the hay barn and on the farm. 500 people here for a dinner with Alice Waters and other luminaries of the food world were here. This is what the Chadwick Garden looks like today. It's still on a slope, so you still have that, but at least it's not full of poison oak and redwoods. Now, imagine that you are at UC Santa Cruz in the early 1970s, and you've discovered this thing called organic agriculture. You've discovered biodynamic farming. You've discovered French-intensive double digging, and you want to bring this learning to the world. But you're at UC Santa Cruz, and despite the fact that Dean McHenry was a Lompoc farm boy, a political scientist like me as a PhD, nobody had an intention to have an ag school at UC Santa Cruz. As wonderful and experimental and progressive as the ideas were in 1960 through 65, ag was not it. That was the purview of my alma mater at UC Davis, and there it should stay. So, if you wanted to train young people in this thing called agroecology, applying the ecological principles to agriculture, how would you do it in this liberal arts, experimental new campus? So the idea that people came up with was to create an apprentice program that would be done as a kind of continuing education program through UC Extension. Now, I invite you to imagine if today, I mean, George is such a sweetheart and such a supporter that he might say yes, but imagine the temerity I would have if I would go to my chancellor today, imagine no farm here, and I went to him and I said, hey, George, okay, get this. We're going to have students, they're not degree students, and they're going to come here, and they're going to plow with draft horses, and they're going to live in teepees. Good? All right? And then his risk assessment lawyers would get all over it, and it would be done, shut down. Somehow, some way, my elders saw a way to do this. And so what was launched in the early 1970s, early to mid-1970s, was a program that invites people from all around the world to come. They live on campus. They live at the farm. Originally, they would just pitch a tent. How you like that? Teepees and tents. And I'll show you how they live now, so step up. And they have an intense 6-month residential, experiential learning where they learn how to grow crops organically and also organic horticulture. These are what they live in now. Through very generous gifts, we have 9 tent cabins with 4 rooms in them each, kind of like what you might see in a national park. And so the apprentices live in those for the 6 months. Unfortunately, they're still having to use porta potties. So one of my dreams one day is to get them a proper bathroom and shower facility, because that's not so nice. Now, we have 40 apprentices a year. I'll tell you a little bit more about the undergraduates who come. 40 is terrific. It's intensive. Staff feel like it's a lot of people, but that's not many people. And so what we have done over the years is to take our pedagogy, take our instruction, and put that into a set of teaching manuals that are disseminated free of charge all over the world. These are downloaded tens of thousands of times. So there are people in Africa who download our teaching manuals and use those agroecological principles or our marketing manuals, also for small farm and garden programs. Again, what we have evolved to now is a program that exposes people to a wide variety of sustainable agricultural production. Whether it's hand-cultivated gardens, as you may find in an urban garden, or tractor-cultivated fields that you might find on a small farm. We also have greenhouses, also built with private philanthropy. And the greenhouses allow us to model and demonstrate and do research and practice in seed saving and propagation. So if you were a young farmer starting out, if you were going to go apprentice on a small farm, that farm would probably buy its seed and its seedlings. It would not do its own propagation. But here we can do that. And here we can expose apprentices and undergraduates to this work, and they may then feel like that's their calling, and then they'll go out and do that work. We have an extensive network. Virginia mentioned 1,500 apprentice alumni. They are all over the country, they're all over the world. We keep track of them through growafarmer.org, and so you can click on this site and you can find farms. Now, I like to exaggerate, and I will fess up to the fact that I'm about to exaggerate with you, so you can take this with somewhat of a grain of salt. If you encounter an organic farmer in California, we probably trained them, or we trained the people who trained them. All right, so I'm exaggerating, but it's not that far off. That is apprentices, our work with apprentices and farmers who become farmers and gardeners, but we also have a tremendous amount of activity from undergraduates. Now, imagine that you are 20 years old, and the classroom is getting a little stifling, and you're stressed, and boy, you sure would like to do something with your hands and body and have that kind of learning outside. And so you come and you intern at the farm and garden. You intern out here at the farm or up at the garden. We host almost 100 interns a year, and we also host a lot of labs that our undergraduates are taking. So they'll do their agroecology courses and they'll do their lab work down here. So what they get to do is they get to grow organic produce themselves that is then served to their own peers in their own dining halls. Imagine the pride that they have going up to the chafing dish full of fries and saying, hey, hey, that was me. You're eating your own campus right here, organically. So here's some more images of the undergraduates. So, our staff, Daryl Wong, teaching them about potato planting, here about soil moisture. And here is what the farm looks like now. The farm is a production farm. It's not just a pretty spot. We actually produce many tons of crops every year. We sell them at the farm stand cart Tuesdays and Fridays, 22 weeks a year. We have a community-supported agriculture. That's a subscription service. This is a model of marketing that was not pioneered here, but we were an early adopter. And in that model, you pay in a share, a fee at the beginning of the season to a farmer, to a farm, and you are entitled to a box of fruits, vegetables, and flowers throughout the growing season. So you share the risk with the farm and the farmer. You share that investment with them. We have a farm bill that is $20 to $25 billion a year. But do you think we are sharing the risk with small organic farmers? No, we're not. We're sharing that risk with huge conventional farms that are basically polluting the Gulf of Mexico and the atmosphere. So I won't go too far on that. So we are a production farm, and increasingly we are producing for our own dining halls. The dining halls up here are spending $1 million a year in produce. $1 million a year in produce. So even if George gave me the whole South Campus and all the meadows, I probably could not grow everything for the dining halls. So they're they're delighted to take everything that we can give. And again, it's a matter of great pride for them. Here's the farm stand cart. Here's some harvesting for the dining halls. Now, we're not UC Davis with its Ag Experiment Station. And yet, we have, and my faculty colleagues have taken it upon us to do what you do at a research university, which is do research. And it turns out that growing beautiful, healthy fruits, vegetables, and flowers is problematic if you don't know how. How do you do it without agrochemicals? How do you do it without the pesticides and the fertilizers and so on? I don't know how many of you recall going to buy some organic food at a co-op in 1979. Was it beautiful? No, it was not, be honest. And it was expensive then too. So, this has taken a great deal of research, and a lot of it was pioneered here. If you hear people say that this is the mothership of organic agriculture, there's some truth to that. And part of it is on our research program. Here's one of them. What is one of the #1 crops in Santa Cruz County? Strawberries. Strawberries. Strawberries are prima donnas. You look at them cross-eyed and they wilt, and they rot, and they don't give you any fruit. They're wretchedly fickle plants. But everybody loves them, right? So the conventional solution to that temperament has been to blow away the soil and rid it of any possible whiff of disease or life, and create a living, complex soil and turn it into a barren lattice. That is soil fumigation. That's using very nasty chemicals, methyl bromide and others, that you then you plant your plants and you put your fertilizers and all that. And you've seen the result. The strawberries are strawberries in name only, I think. And here I'm indulging my polemic here, but there are other ways to do it. So my colleagues have been pioneering a system called anaerobic soil disinfestation. This is a technique that was independently but almost simultaneously discovered in the Netherlands and in Japan, where both have a lot of flooded fields. And researchers in both countries discovered that after they drained the rice paddies and after they put up their dikes, they were able to grow crops in previously flooded fields that had been otherwise subjected to all kinds of diseases. And so we have adopted that technique here. Again, this is one of our research plots as it's being prepared. If you went up there now, you'd see plants in there. And so the field is flooded, a couple inches of water, a carbon source is added, and you put in your strawberries and you get a few rotations there. Beautiful strawberries grown organically. The yields are highly competitive with conventional. The quality is terrific, and the economics are quite good. My colleague Carol Shannon and Joji Muramoto pioneered this technique. They went from 0 acres 5 years ago to now over 1,300 acres commercially doing strawberries and making good money doing that. That is exactly what you would expect of a public research university to do, to take a problem and that society has and to try to help solve it. So we are a research facility as well. Of course, I have to brag on the hay barn a little bit. Here I have a picture of it, but of course you're in it. What I hope you get from this beautiful building is not just that it's beautiful and a lovely place to have lunch, but also that it signals to the community, to the campus, to visitors, that UC Santa Cruz values its history, It values its history as a working landscape. It values beauty. It values sustainability. It's all here in the message of this hay barn, which is our new headquarters, and again, also built with a generous gift. And we have lots of events in here, and it's a great place to get married. The Farm and Garden is a program not just for apprentices and undergraduates. I like to say, with perfect credibility, that we provide instruction from pre-K through retirement. So, how many of you know about the Life Lab program? Life Lab was founded here in Santa Cruz in the late 70s as a way of providing science education through gardens, through school gardens. So Life Lab has developed the curricula that people all around the world use to start their gardens and then provide the instruction. But Life Lab is here. It's located. Its headquarters is here. And almost 3,000 K through 6 kids come to our little old farm to get instruction, and they eat things you don't think they're going to, like kale. Happily. Those are the smaller kids. We have a youth empowerment program called Food What, which is, it takes students, often at-risk students, and helps give them life and career skills also through the lens of gardening. This is a shot of undergraduates at a food produce pop-up. If you haven't heard it, I'm very sad to report that between 20 and 40% of undergraduates, of students actually, not just undergraduates, but students at the University of California report some degree of food insecurity. They are hungry. And to echo a bit what George was talking about in terms of housing, what has happened is that students are trading lodging for food. This is unacceptable at the University of California. It's absolutely a tragedy. And this campus is the first in the University of California to pioneer student food pantries and other techniques for identifying students who have food needs and then getting food to them. And so we are participating quite actively in that. The Farm and Garden is also a very important community and public resource. Maybe you've been to our plant sales. Maybe you've been to our Harvest Festival, which is coming up at the end of the month. I encourage you to come here. Maybe you have been a part of our Garden Cruise workshops. If you want to learn how to do all that we do, you can do a weekend workshop and learn how to manage your fruit trees, your compost, and so on. Here's Orrin Martin, the great guru of growing fruit, doing one of these workshops. So that's us. And we are, as I say, many things to many people, and really excited about moving into our next 50 years of having even more impact on food and agriculture, so that what we do here is not just beautiful and wonderful in this spot, but becomes the norm everywhere. That's my great megalomaniacal dream, is that we are this everywhere. Thank you. So, I'm happy to take questions, and there's a microphone there if, yeah.
Hi. My name is Stephen Mayer, and I'm a Cowell College graduate. And I wanted to ask you, does the UCSC, do they recruit people with disabilities, people who are deaf or blind, or people who are homeless, people with problems, maybe they don't have a job? Do you do you recruit those people to come and help grow the food?
So we have definitely started a set of beds up on the farm site that are accessible to people who have challenges in mobility. We have not yet been actively looking at other kinds of accommodations for disabilities. But I would welcome that kind of project very much on the farm and garden site.
Yes, yeah, that would be good. That would be great. It's really important to stay in contact with the Department of Rehabilitation and also homeless organizations that provide services for vets and people like that. And you could disseminate the information to those people, and then that way people could come and volunteer. And they could help out in the garden and help with disseminating the food as well. I think it'd be a nice goal, something good to know.
You're absolutely right, and I think if I can use an analogy, we have partnered with the Veteran Farmers of America to create now veterans programs. So we now have a veteran scholarship. So we have veterans who come and learn to farm organically here, and for many of them it's a tremendously healing and life-affirming to go from having been a soldier and the violence and trauma of that experience and going to farming organically has been quite transformative.
Yeah. Maybe I'll join you. I'm a guard and a food service delivery person. So I can do that.
Excellent. Yay. Perfect. Thank you. Yes. Lan. The microphone over here.
Could you talk a little bit more about, I think you said 40 apprentices that are here at any time, in terms of where do they come from? Are they primarily Californian or from around the world? And how many people apply for those 40 places?
So 40 is, I mean, it's not entirely an arbitrary number. We do have 36 beds in the tent cabins, and a few who come from the community who don't want to live on site. It's also about manageable for the staff in terms of providing that very close interaction. They come mostly from all over the United States. After 9/11, the visa requirements for people coming to do work like this got tougher. And now they have only gotten even more difficult. So it becomes more expensive, although we do and welcome some scholarships to bring some students from around the world. We have had them from Asia, Africa, Latin America. We'd like to have more, but the visa and financial requirements are quite difficult. I will say that the demographic of the apprentice program has changed dramatically in 40 years. It used to be very, very white, middle class, and very male also, and now we have much more participation by students of color. I'm very proud to report that Bon Appetit, Bon Appetit, the food service, has given us our first scholarship program for students of color, for apprentices of color, and that was matched by a private donor. So we now have raised $200,000 over the next 3 years in scholarships for apprentices of color. Our fees are $6,000 a season, so you can see that $200,000 is going to make an impact, and this means that that we can reach out to more underrepresented students. And then in terms of where they come, a lot of them are from California, but really they're from all over the country. And then for some reason, we've got the Hudson Valley. We've got that covered. Yes, over here. Here's the microphone right here.
Thanks. So I have 3 questions.
3 questions.
Well, short ones. So in that pop-up thing, there were 7 girls and 1 boy.
Yeah.
Any reason?
Yeah, because women are now the majority. Well, there are more women going to college than men, number 1, which is an interesting change. So whenever I see the young men, I say, hey, come on guys, let's get out there.
Well, that was just a chance. It was just a chance.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a chance. I mean, I will say that a lot of the agroecology students are from environmental studies. Environmental studies is also skewed towards women, young women. I don't know why that is. Yeah.
It was so odd. I mean, you would
Yeah.
think 50-50 or more men than
Yeah,
women. Okay.
like-
More importantly, the strawberry initiative.
Yeah.
Are they specifically sold here at Staff of Life or New Leaf or one of the your strawberries?
Right. So the question was whether our wonderful, terrific, sustainably produced, brilliant strawberries are sold locally. And the answer is largely not. And here's why. Some years ago, our staff went down to the Santa Cruz Farmers Market and set up side by side with other organic farmers. Remember the ones that I told you we trained. And the organic farmers at the farmers market looked over at us and said, "Hey, you're the University of California. You're deeply subsidized, and you're competing with us." I was not there at the moment to say, "We're not deeply subsidized. We'd love to be." So anytime you want to deeply subsidize us, we'll stop selling. So that's not the case. But in any event, we have respected that sentiment and sell here on our site. Occasionally, when we're not yet in our farm season, when we're out of that 22-week season, sometimes our blueberries come on early. We'll go down to New Leaf and we'll say we have, a number of flats of blueberries, and will you take them?
Because that's only competing then with national chains of blueberries. I mean, I think
understand.
Lots of us would just run right down there and buy okay. And then the final question is that nice ASD development that you invented. Can you patent that and then make it a lot of money for your division?
That's a really good question. I haven't asked Carol about that.
There you go.
I don't think she has. But I'll tell you that the research was conducted, as often agricultural research is, in partnership with commercial farms. So we have the mother trial here, and then we have a number of baby trials or sister trials out in the region. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, James. Right, the microphone's coming along. They would like us to use the microphone.
To what degree have major agribusiness people like Driscoll embraced your ASD approach, and are they dabbling with it, or are they experimenting, or is there any kind of movement in that direction?
So Driscolls are very sympathetic and supportive of what we do, not so much financially. Driscoll's has its own plant breeding program and its own ways of doing things, even in organic, and so has not been tremendously interested in adopting what we do here. So I would say smaller growers have been adopting what we do here rather than the Driscolls of the world. We do get support and a lot of recognition from others in the organic industry. And one of the pleasant features about being 50 years into this work is that we have organic agriculture and food associations, research groups, and commercial enterprises. So that means that you have California certified organic farmers, the Organic Farming Research Foundation, you have Annie Newman's own Earthbound, Stonyfield Farms, and they support us. So because we are their soulmates, so to speak. And so we don't solicit or get money from Cargill and Monsanto because they wouldn't be interested in us anyway, and I don't even have to go into that. So we are fortunate to have these partners in that industry that grew up alongside us and can, now of course, they don't write checks of the nature that Monsanto and Cargill do, so, it's a little different. Yes, over here, there's a question.
Some of our neighborhood children came up here this summer to participate in some summer programs you have.
Yeah.
and I think this is the second year or third year. Could you just describe what you do during this summer with these kindergartners,
Yeah.
elementary school kids?
Yes, yes. So the Life Lab program runs a wonderful farm camp that my kids and others have taken. And so every family with small kids faces the perennial American problem, which is what are you going to do with the kids in the summer? And so some families elect to bring them here, and they have 2-week-long programs where the kids are there all day long, and they learn about plants and wildlife. They're out on the farm the whole time. And again, they come back eating things that you didn't ever expect them to, and learn. They do really learn a great deal, and then become ambassadors for this learning and this eating, and insist with their parents that they eat real food, which is great. So I have to leave it at that, but I really appreciate your attention, your time, and your support. And come visit us. This is an open place. We don't lock it and close it. It's yours. I want to emphasize that. It's not ours. It belongs to you. So please come and visit and use it as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers today. I just have a few remarks that I want to leave you with. And I wanted to tell you, you heard about the campaign totals and the way we ended the year. But I want to tell you, last year was a great year for planned gifts too. You know, many people documented their bequest intentions, and they used all the other vehicles that are available to you to increase their support to the university. So we also have been busy. Their gifts supported scholarships and fellowships, faculty programs, or they were unrestricted gifts. And other updates include our new plan giving materials. Some of you may have seen this brochure. It's our Guide to Plan Giving brochure. It's one that we use to help educate people on what their legacy planning options are. Well, it was about 6 years old. So we've updated the information, and because you're my best ambassadors, I'm letting you know if you know somebody who wants more information about what their options are, let us know. We've also updated our website, and I encourage people to take a look there. And I wanted to point out our research magazine. It's called Inquiry, and it's come out in the last 2 years, but it captures more of the research that's going on at the campus and helping us be number 3 in our research impact on the world. So there's some copies at the table on your way out. So, let's see. Oh, one last thing that we did last year was used social media. We had a Facebook post of let us know add tile, and it was really fun to see people clicking on those buttons and calling for more information or letting us know that we are in their estate plans. So on behalf of UC Santa Cruz and the future students here, we thank you for your role in personally making their futures brighter and encouraging others to do so. So if we can all gather where is our photographer? Steve. Right over by Steve Kurtz. He's pulling a couple of chairs out. For the group photograph, you'll notice every time we update our website or our brochure materials, we use our latest photo in our collateral materials. So again, thank you for coming. I hope to see you again next year. And thank you for all you do for the students of UC Santa Cruz.